On day 2 of our little press junket to Ontario, the sun came out, the birds sang, and we rode the new 160 horsepower BMW S1000XR till hell wouldn't have it anymore. Okay, fine, we rode only till cocktail hour. On day 1, though, it rained all day, the mosquitoes made the air hum at every stop, the roads were treacherous, and I was very glad to be on the new R1200RS instead. If the new XR is a pair of stiletto-heeled red pumps, the new RS is way closer to being your favorite pair of trusted hiking boots. Both bikes now sport advanced electronics that make them nearly foolproof even in sloppy conditions, but for me anyway, there's something about BMW's classic Boxer twin that's as comforting and reassuring as a home-thawed meal. Maybe it's because I remember being at the launch of the first oilhead R1100RS a mere 22 years ago. No more telelever. The need for a bigger radiator after the switch to liquid cooling provided the necessary excuse to switch to a conventional fork. No more telelever. The need for a bigger radiator after the switch to liquid cooling provided the necessary excuse to switch to a conventional fork. Though not without their faults, these things have served us well over the millennia as tourers, and sport bikes, long before we dreamed BMW would ever build anything like the K1600 or S1000RR. The beloved Boxer is what will always pop into my brain when somebody says BMW. There are motorcycles you have a fling with for a couple years who then trade you in for a better rider. Then there are motorcycles you establish a trusting, long-term relationship with. This BMW is one of the latter. The flat twin Boxer engine on the new R1200RS is the same DOHC unit that already powers the R1200GS, R1200RT, and the new R1200R. BMW claims 125 horsepower at 7,750 rpm and 92 lb-ft of torque at 6,500 rpm. Compared to the engines on the GS Adventure, and RT, BMW says the RT should have a bit more low-rev torque thanks to a different airbox. And with these bikes, it's all about the torque. If the RS doesn't have the 160 HP, 11,000 rpm top end of the XR, BMW says the 1,170 cubic centimeters twin at least makes 9 more lb-ft of torque, 92 lb-ft at 6,500 rpm instead of the XR's 83 at 9,250. For some reason, the RS feels considerably more substantial at first sit than the XR, but BMW says the RS is only 18 pounds heavier, 520 to 502. So even though the XR feels way sportier and more hyperactive, the reality is that the RS can probably match it step for step right up to a speed beyond which you should never ride on the public roads anyway. Maybe even down dirt roads, too, since the RS has almost as much suspension travel as the XR, 5.5 inches versus 5.9 at both ends. It's called a Boxer, kids, because the pistons move in and out together, like a boxer jabbing his fists outward to warm up. On the road, it produces the reassuring drone of a trusty aircraft engine. It's called a Boxer, kids, because the pistons move in and out together, like a boxer jabbing his fists outward to warm up. On the road, it produces the reassuring drone of a trusty aircraft engine. The new RT is very much like the new R1200R I got to sample last December, the most obvious difference being the addition of a half fairing. Early RS drawings looked a little top-heavy / buxom, but the final design looks really proportional to my eye, and nicely downplays the downdraft intake tracks of the new Boxer that are a little too prominent on the naked, R version. The windshield's in low here, but snaps up a few inches into a high position. Its design, and that of the fairing and its winglets, produce nice, smooth airflow in either position. The windshield's in low here, but snaps up a few inches into a high position. Its design, and that of the fairing and its winglets, produce nice, smooth airflow in either position. Instead of the naked bike's handlebar, the RS gets a pair of clip-ons stuck into a tricky forged deal attached to the top clamp, and instead of the RS sit-up straight ergonomics, The RS pulls its rider an inch or two forward and lower into the cockpit, though the footpegs and delicious seat feel like they're in the same place as before. Where the R is aimed slightly more at urban use, the RS is designed to also serve as an all-weather long-range sport tourer, to cross over into R1200RT territory. Originally, the R and RS were supposed to be the same bike, one fared and one not, but BMW can't ever seem to take the easy route. Specs indicate the RS is 0.5 inch longer of wheelbase, with 0.4 inch less trail than the R, which should give it plenty of high-speed stability along with slightly quicker steering than the R if you're a he-man willing to leverage its narrower handlebars. I can vouch for the stability of both of them at medium speeds anyway. Most boxers feel like they could ghost ride the length of I-70 if you set the cruise control and jumped off. The base version, which is slated to sell for $14,950, comes with BMW's automatic stability control and rain and road modes. You'll need to step up to the standard package, $16,025, to get the heated grips and cruise control. If you want the dynamic electronic suspension adjustment, you'll be signing a $17,770 check. It's hard to say if the ESA is worth it on this bike, since nobody's ever seen or ridden the non-ESA one. Shift Assist Pro is a thing I could easily do without on a bike like this one. It's kind of jerky at low RPM, and low and mid RPM is where you ride these bikes most of the time. The 6-speed gearbox on every one of these I've ridden shifts perfectly without the clutch, up or down, if you roll out of the throttle just the tiniest bit, as God intended, and nudge the lever. Something in a nice gray and black, perhaps. I could pop the screen to high. If I set the cruise control and used both hands. That seat's nice and thick, higher and lower options are available. Something in a nice gray and black, perhaps. I could pop the screen to high if I set the cruise control and used both hands. That seat's nice and thick, higher and lower options are available. Ride Modes Pro is the other big deal with the premium package, which gets you dynamic and customizable user ride modes in addition to rain and road, along with Onboard Computer Pro, which allows you to configure the TFT instrument display in various ways to suit your mood. Ho hum. You're supposed to be able to get Ride Modes Pro as a $350 option on any RS, which is definitely the way to go since with it comes dynamic traction control, a great thing to have in the rain. All RSs come with switch-offable integral ABS brakes. Anyway, I wanted all the electronic help I could get in the Canadian slop, and the RS was there for me, complete with 2-position heated grips to keep my hands warm, even as the water was making its way up my sleeves by the end of the day. Grabbing big handfuls of torque in the wet while leaned over results in nothing more alarming than a flashing light on the customizable dashboard, and on the new bike, a quick turn throttle lets you get to full power with less wristation. Otherwise you just hunker down behind the reasonably generous windshield and get on with it. Another advantage of RS over XR for the cheap at heart is that BMW says it'll get 57 mpg versus 44 for the XR. That'll add up at $4 a gallon for premium. Okay, yeah, the new S1000XR was the star of the show up there in the Great White North, and as I wrote last week it may be my favorite new BMW. But if I'd had to pick it or the RS to ride back to Sakal from up there in the rain, and live with for the next year or two, I'd have a hard time not climbing aboard the deep dish, low-stress RS. Something about the old Boxer soothes the soul. It's probably no coincidence Pirsig's classic Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance is all about the Boxer.